Good afternoon. Good afternoon, dear friends, dear colleagues, dear partners, dear honorable guests. It's our pleasure to welcome you here today on our 23rd Annual International Scientific Conference, Information Technologies and Management, as well as our 30-year anniversary of ISMA. So today and tomorrow we have very interesting two meetings. For the plenary session, you can see our program right here today. We have 5 speakers, and approximately we plan to finish at 4 o'clock. After the plenary session, I will welcome you here to take a photo. So, and now I would like to ask Dennis Diakons, Rector of ISMA, for a welcoming speech. Dennis, welcome.
Hello everyone. Well, it's so nice to see you here at our new premises actually, because that's the first time when we are organizing such a big conference in this hall, and to me it looks very beautiful actually. So thanks a lot for coming. We are glad to welcome you. We are glad to share our celebration of our 30-year anniversary with all of you. Our chairman said in the morning that 30 is not 50. However, I think it's a pretty significant age to celebrate still, because actually throughout these years, many generations at ISMA have changed. Some of us, like me and my many colleagues, have grown up here and made our careers here. So that's very interesting. And I see many partners who have been supporting us throughout all these years. And also I see many new faces, which is very nice. That means that we are developing, we are gaining more force, more cooperation, we are developing, and thank you all for that. Nothing would have been possible without you. So that's great to have you here. Let's enjoy this wonderful conference, this wonderful day, and let's proceed. Good luck.
Thank you, Dennis. And our next speaker is President of ISMA, Olga Verdenhofer. Olga, you're welcome.
Dear partners, dear colleagues, dear students, we're extremely pleased to welcome you here today as we are celebrating our 30th anniversary. It's been quite a journey where we have encountered a lot of challenges that led us where we are now today. Higher education will reluctantly need to change, and actually we are already on the verge of this process. And we need to implement such actions as AI, such actions as we need to diversify our methods and techniques of the study process. We need to look into the delivery and make changes there. We need to improve our procedures and processes, digitalize them. But you know, every challenge brings opportunities, and this is the one. So for us, it's the biggest opportunity to state our mission even stronger, even more important, and to use it as a chance to implement and develop higher education even more to the higher level of quality. And we're looking forward to doing that with you. I wish you a successful conference and enjoy Riga. Welcome.
Thank you, Olga. And our next honorable speaker, General Ivan Malamov from National Military University from Bulgaria. Ivan, welcome.
Thank you very much. Dear guests, allow me to introduce myself to you. I am Brigadier General Ivan Malamov, Rector of National Military University in Bulgaria. I would like to give the university's plaquette to Mr. Diakons. Would you tell? Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud that I'm here. Thank you very much for this invitation to be here and your scientific conference. I would like success. I would like to give the university plaquettes to you and to your university as a sign of respect and to hope that our future cooperation will continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for the speech. And now we start with our plenary session and with our speakers. First one is Alexander Svorobyov, Head of Maintenance, Workflow and Digitalization at Air Baltic Corporation, with a speech of digital transformation of technical operations in Air Baltic. Alexander, welcome. Floor is yours.
Good day, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for invitation to come, and it's a big pleasure for me to come for this audience to present, to be one of the first speakers today. So my name is Alexander Svorobyov. I'm head of maintenance and workflow digitalization at Air Baltic Technical Department, and I'll present to you the digital transformation plan of technical operations of Air Baltic. And to start with, a few facts about Air Baltic. Air Baltic is a national airline of Latvia. The biggest stakeholder of our company is Latvian state. We operate out of 4 permanent bases. Our main base is Riga, of course, but also we operate from Vilnius, Tallinn, and Tampere. And we are #1 market player in Baltic states and also the notable player on the northern market. We have operated a modern fleet of 47 airplanes. This year it will reach 50 airplanes, and we have further plans to grow to 100 airplanes. And also internationally recognized company with various awards, and one of them is being the best airline on Eastern Europe in 2023 by Skytrax, and a few other awards as well. This is the first slide is like facade face of Air Baltic, as any company has the bright facade, and also every company has it like backyard, and usually backyard is not that as clean as the facade. Same goes for us, and we have to admit that in technical operations area we have one of the big problem is the growing amount of the papers, records, documents, which are literally physical documents in paper. And just few slides presenting this problematics is here. What you see in this photo is the amount of the paper documents which one airplane accumulates in 10 years of operations. It's like 30 boxes or 500 kilos of paper records, which have to be kept for the entire life of the airplane, have to be archived and processed and managed. And also every paper in this box refers to another printed document, so it's a big amount of the documents. Another example, so every 4 years the aircraft undergoes the large maintenance check, like technical check of the airplane. And to conduct this job, we have to print out the instructions, inspection instructions, repair instructions for airplane. And one such work package consists of more than 7,000 pages of instructions for one airplane. And every single page needs to be signed. It needs to be printed, first of all, signed, then recorded back to electronic system, then stored, archived, processed. So 7,000 pages per airplane. This year we plan to do like 19 events of such type. So again, it's the massive amount of the paper job. So we have to admit this is our reality. So we are the leading airline in many areas, having the brand new fleet, having the market recognition, but we didn't made our homework well. So our technical operations reside on very ancient processes, which are paper-based. But the main point here that the paper itself, it's not a problem as such. So if proper process works well, there is no need to change. Yeah. So we do not want to go paperless just to get rid of the paper, but we want to become more efficient. And the paper processes that we have at the present are stopping our development, and the paper processes, they result in major inefficiencies like extra workload. So we need a massive amount of the employees just to process the paper documents, to get them archived, to dig for the data which is stored in the papers. So this is the wasting of the time, as again any analysis of the paper records, any analysis of any data which needs to be extracted from the paper takes a lot of time. This of course results in big costs to the company. We also struggle from the lack of information, as again, yes, we have that information stored in archives, but the access to the information is very limited and also time consuming, and so we are losing our visibility of our processes, losing visibility of our business and the activities we are taking. And data which we have stored either paper or also electronic, it's in many cases unreliable. So it's fractured, it's scattered over various locations, and this leads to the wrong judgment of the business processes, wrong judgment of our performance. So we have incorrect, possibly, vision of our business. And I have to admit, as a result of this, we also, in many cases, we take intuitive decisions, which are not based on the facts, based on the data. And intuitive decisions, they cost a lot. They bring us to the big errors in our strategy planning, in our tactical planning, in our development. So this is a very costly problem. The reason why we are lagging behind in our technical operations from the level expected of the. Sorry for interruption. The reasons we are lagging behind is the fact of the outstanding growth of Air Baltic in the past 17 years. So the maintenance system, IT maintenance system that we use now was deployed in 2007. At that time, we were operating the fleet of just 16 airplanes. Yeah, now we operate 50 of them. In terms of the technical services we provide, so it was just line maintenance. Now we provide the full spectrum of the maintenance, like line maintenance, base maintenance, component maintenance. The staff of the technical department has multiplied by 5 from 100 employees to more than 500. Number of operating bases also grown from 2 to 4, and also we operate on seasonal basis. So the dramatic growth of the Air Baltic in the last decade, and it led to this, some lagging of the processes behind. Another example of why there is a need to change, and why is this the right time to make investment, is like technology development. So try to recall what was the mobile phone you had back in 2007 at the date when we deployed our current IT solution. So it possibly was even the button operated phone. And over these years, for example, Apple products, they released the 15th generation of their iPhone. We in Air Baltic still run on our old maintenance system, which is called Oasis. So it's indeed the right time for the big change. And the big change is the migration to the new platform, new IT solution, which is called AMOS. It's abbreviation of Aircraft Maintenance Operating System. Yeah, in aviation we do like abbreviations a lot. This year, November last year, our company took a strategic decision to fully change our current maintenance IT system. And this summer we start with implementation of new system called AMOS. What is AMOS? AMOS is maintenance and engineering IT system which stores all the data, all the aircraft history data, all the parts installed on the aircraft, all the tasks accomplished, all the dependencies are stored in the system. It was developed initially developed in 90 by the Swiss Air airline. So this is the product developed by the business know-how holders. It's not like the IT product developed by IT specialists and brought to the business, but it was the in-house solution of the airline. So they knew what they need and they knew what they wanted. So they built initially product from themselves, but it turned out so effective and so popular, so it's expanded, and now more than 200 large operators, world largest airlines, are using this product. And our plan is to be one of them. So this is large and versatile system. It provides IT functionality for all the activities that we have in technical operations, in engineering area, in maintenance execution, in planning, in quality control, in logistics of spare parts, in warehouse activities, and so on. So basically this is like a Windows operating system, or iOS, as you want, in a world of aircraft maintenance, and we plan to migrate to this system. And the plan is that this system will be built a base for our future development, for our future introduction of other IT solutions in technical operations. So Amos, what is Amos? It's IT product which consists of 11 like main core modules used from the desktop computers, as originally they were invented, to cover all the areas of aircraft maintenance, starting from engineering, planning, maintenance tasks, executions, ending up with finance control, HR, customer management, and even the flight simulator management. So all areas of technical operations are called just by one big but yet single system. And add-ons of the Amos are the mobile applications, Amos Mobile Exec and Amos Mobile Stores. The first one, Exec, is the mobile applications for the technicians. And we have a big trust that the mobile applications will bring a lot of benefits to our operations and a lot of efficiency improvement. As with these mobile applications, the technicians will be able to receive their information at their tablets. So they will receive their tasks, jobs at the tablets. They will be able to sign off task execution at the tablets. So they will receive the information on the aircraft health status on the tablet. So they will see when aircraft lands, what are the defects, whether airplane can be operated or not, at what time it departs, and so on. So the technicians will not be tied to the office, to the desk, to print out the instruction, to go back to the airplane, then go to stores to check if parts are available. Everything will be available at any area, at any point in the world. At a glance, as shown in this illustration. The similar application will be used in stores for storekeepers, so that storekeepers can also work in stores, not at the desk, but at the shelves, doing the incoming inspection of the spare parts, doing the spare parts issue and checkout, check-in, transactions, store transactions, everything will be possible to be done from the mobile application, which increases the speed of the processes, increase efficiency, and also traceability of the processes. So why did we choose Amos? Why this solution and not other? This product was selected out during the careful and exhaustive 2 years long process of the product selection, which was run in cooperation with the global partners, well-recognized global partners. And we selected the 5 products, 5 top products in this business area. And out of them, the Amos was the best suiting our operation model. So this was the best puzzle to fit Air Baltic needs. So that decision was chosen to go with Amos. So there is it is one of the largest products on the market. More than 200 airlines are using the system. And what builds my trust in this product is that I haven't heard any bad comment from real users, from the real technicians, real engineers working in different airlines all around the world. No one has said any bad word, just positive feedback. So I rely on the comments not from the salespersons, but from the frontliners. This is the real value. This new product, it needs a massive investment, measurable in millions. And this is a large project, which will, deployment will take a couple of years. But it's also the big value. And of course, as any investment in any business needs to pay back. And what is the value of implementation of the system? What we'll get back? And data is the gold. It's real the value which will reside in the system and which will be easily available, easily usable, and transformable. So the AMOS will give us the refined and quality data, which will be much more precise to the data sources we use now, and it will be near real time. As I say, it will be available at tablets, at mobile phones. The systems, our operational system will feed in the data, so we'll see them as like live status of every aircraft at any point in the world. Data will be structured, it will be easily to visualize. There are a lot of tools which allow to easily visualize the data. Also, the system contains a lot of the reporting functions, so we will be able to build report of any kind, and also a lot of analytical tools. And also the value is in visibility of the processes and resources, so the managers will be able to track actual workload on the personnel, actual status of the aircraft, actual stock remainings, and the forecast for upcoming period. And this will allow us to make the informed decisions, which are based on the facts, on the actual consumption, actual workload, and the forecast built on the previous experience of the company. So what we'll get, the mobility and awareness. And mobility comes from the two sources. One mobility is that, as I mentioned, the mobile devices will allow the technician not to tie technician or storekeeper to their desks, but they will get all the data, all the tasks to their tablets. Another kind of the mobility is that a lot of the processes will be digitalized, which needs now the ink signature on the paper. This process will be electronic, meaning that even office personnel will be able to work remotely from any part of the world. So there is no need to come even to the office. The AMOS system will reduce the double workload, so we'll eliminate a monkey job. Now we have different separated systems, and we have to enter data in each of these systems separately. So we do a lot of the double job. We enter the same data into different systems. With AMOS will be integrated with all of them, meaning that we will be able to just enter data into one system, greatly saving on the time and resources. The AMOS will allow to improve compliance to the regulatory acts and requirements, because it will again give a better traceability on our fleet status, fleet condition, aircraft configuration, and this will improve safety. Also improvement on the KPIs. So KPIs we have now, they are like retroactive. They are calculated for the past period, like for past quarter and or past year. Here, AMOS will allow us to indicate the real-time KPIs, and it will be possible to adjust business processes on the daily basis, looking at the KPIs. So it's not like retroactive looking on KPIs for the past quarter, but if we see that KPI needle is dropping, we can immediately implement corrective actions to rise the KPIs. It will open also new opportunities for us, like attraction of the new customers for the maintenance of the aircraft or maintenance of the components. And it will act as a base for the future growth of IT products, IT development of technical operations of Air Baltic. As I mentioned, it will be like a Lego base. After we deploy AMOS, we'll build on additional software which will be integrated and interfaced with the AMOS, such as this electronic technical log, electronic maintenance records, electronic archiving systems, AI tools, or big data analytics. Everything of all these solutions can be built up on the base of the AMOS. Challenges, of course, this is the big project, and as any project, it has its own challenges, and there are many of them. The biggest one are listed on this slide. The first big challenge is data. So to get the system working properly, we need to feed proper data in the system. and in sufficient amount. But as data is now mainly on the paper or scattered across the various systems like Excel spreadsheets and some other files, so it will be a big challenge to gather all the data and feed it into the system. It needs a lot of manual work. Then regulations. So aviation is heavily regulated area, mainly because of the safety reasons. So a lot of the regulatory acts and the legislation which controls which software we can use, which software cannot, which processes are allowed to be done or not. So due to this fact, the aviation is quite conservative auto acceptance of the new IT tools. Every IT tool needs to be checked for compliance to the regulatory acts. It needs to be tested, certified, approvals from governmental approval needs to be received. And this takes quite a long time. So that's why the aviation, in terms of implementation of IT technologies, it's lagging behind the industry. So in our business, the IT products do not change that frequent as like in telecommunication area, for example, as we are bound to the regulatory requirements and regulatory acts are transforming very slowly. This is also one of the barriers on our road to implementation of the new system. Workload, as I mentioned, one data was one of the examples, but this is a very workload demanding process, so we'll need to attract a lot of qualified and skilled specialists to get this project done. Process mapping, so we'll have to rebuild all the processes which we have in technical operations, literally all of them, from the way how the part is issued to the technician, to the way how the part is installed on the aircraft, how this transaction is tracked and stored. So it's not just another IT product we introduce, just another IT tool. With the introduction of this solution, we'll modernize all the processes in technical departments. So we will revitalize all the processes, revise them, introduce new processes, terminate the old ones. So it will be fundamental change, not only from the IT perspective, but for the whole operation of the technical department. Switch over. The tricky thing with this system that we'll have to switch to this system in one day. So the boom approach will be applied to the transition, meaning that on the one day we'll leave office with old system working, and the next day we'll start working fully in the new system, which is a dramatic change for any employee. So when you have to start using completely new system, that's really hard to accept, and that's leads to our last and the most complicated thing is the acceptance of the new normal. So the personnel will have to accept the idea and the concept of working in the new system. They will have to trust the digital processes, they have to trust the paperless operations. And this is the most complicated thing, I would say, in this project. As for the rest of all ideas, rest of challenges, I have the ideas how to get them fixed, and I have the resources and the team to get that done. But for the last one, the changing of the mind, no one can get into the head. So that's the important task for every employee of Air Baltic technical department, to accept the new processes, a new way of doing things, new way of business, and this is one of the biggest challenges and also threats for the project. So the project will launch officially July this year, and in 2 years I hope you will invite me for this conference as well, and I will possibly be able to tell you how it went and how was the project successful or not. That was it on my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Any questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandros. Just a second. I come with a present to you. And our next speaker is Anton Smislevich, Head of Machine Learning at CTCO, who will talk about artificial intelligence, separating hype from reality. Anton, you are welcome. The floor is yours.
Okay, hello. I was asked not to move, so I'll do my best not to move. Yeah, this is my slide. I'll put somewhere here. This. Hello. Those of you who are sitting there in the end, I would suggest that you move closer to the screens because there will be some stuff what maybe will be interesting to read from the screens, and I saw that these slides on the screens are pretty small. But other than this, there is a QR code where all the slides will be available to you, and you actually can just scan it, download it, and go on your own pace through the slides or look through them later. Yeah, this is a clicker. Then let's start. So who am I? My name is Anton Myslevich. Currently I am head of AI and machine learning in Citico. I don't know how many of you know about Citico at all. Very few people. And this is common in Latvia. I see this is common, but we are doing software development for insurance reinsurance. We are 600 people. We have our own building with a whole office. We are one of major taxpayers in Latvia, so we are quite huge. But we work for expert, nearly everything, and that's why very few people know about us. Before joining Citico, I spent 10 years working for Microsoft Consulting Services in a technical role, quite a lot flying around. In parallel to doing this, I finished my PhD in Riga Technical University. So as everyone who is talking smart things about AI, I hope it will be smart things, I hold a PhD. And as everyone having a PhD, I'm still associated with Riga Technical University as one of researchers there, right? And that's why I'm wearing this Riga Technical University anniversary tie today, just so it's easier to associate me. Good. I will be talking about separating hype and reality about artificial intelligence. Actually, the reason we do it is I see there is a lot of hype, and I see specifically businesses are struggling to implement artificial intelligence, and people are struggling to start using artificial intelligence because they have some perceptions, some illusions about it. And we need somehow to find a way to bring this reality to it, because otherwise, artificial intelligence can really help, even in the state in which it is now and was 5 years ago and 10 years ago. But because of all the hype, we're not using it the way we should be using it. And that's why me and my friends, we started a community project called Making AI Real. It had not materialized, but we do speeches like this quite often about separating hype from reality. So what you can expect from today? We will start by a brief intro into why we might have high expectations for AI. Then we will talk about what's inside the AI, so what we call AI nowadays, how it all works. And then I'll try to give you some advices on how you can start using it in a correct way. So I believe many of you are using it already today, but maybe I'll just try to share some insights with you on why maybe AI is not working with you the way you want, or why maybe it can become dangerous at some time. Expectations versus reality. With all this ChatGPT release, was it last year or even the end of a year before, this is how we envision our work with AI nowadays. So we are asking it is 450 90% of 500? And then the machine is saying no, it is not. And then it starts thinking and says, no, I was wrong, and it is. And people are saying you see, this machine is smart because it thinks the same way we do. It can acknowledge its errors, it can apologize, and everything what intelligent humans do, right? Unfortunately, what people are usually not showing that much is examples like this, where last year companies started optimizing their business and generating descriptions for their products in Amazon automatically using generative AI. This is why we have a lot of products called I apologize, but I cannot fulfill this request and all this. This is a real screenshot from Amazon. Or this is my favorite horse, which actually, it has a lot of details, it provides you immersive visuals. I don't know what it means. Maybe it smells in some specific way, but it provides immersive visuals, right? There are some other examples where companies try to implement AI support robots using generative AI again. And DPD was one of them, and they implemented this support bot, which was writing poems about how bad DPD is. And then Chevrolet in US, this specific office, they were very famous because they implemented this OpenAI ChatGPT as their support bot, and people wanted not to pay for OpenAI, and they were coming to this bot and asking all questions they would ask ChatGPT, like write this piece of Python code for me or do something, and it was doing it for them. And here the gentleman asked it if it can buy Chevrolet for $1, and the bot responded like yes, and it is a legally binding offer. So, and why I'm showing you this, it's not to show you that AI is bad, and it's not to show by no means that people who implemented it here are bad. It's just because there are a lot of, let's say, discussions about AI, a lot of perceptions about AI, and people do not usually understand what are some limitations and how this thing works inside. That's why let's look into the current state of AI. What is a right way to think about it? So for some time, we were very good in training supervised, so-called supervised learning, machine learning models. So the way it works is, you have, for example, a lot of images of airplanes, cars, cats, dogs. You are feeding all of it to neural network, it's here, and then this neural network is actually learning from these examples, and then you're giving it a picture of a dog or a cat, and it says, oh, it's a dog, oh, it's a cat. And it looks like magic. What's important that inside that model, we're using neural networks. And this is why people are usually saying like neural networks. So we have neural networks in our brain and neural networks here. So this thing works the same way as our brain does. But it is slightly different. So neural networks in terms of artificial intelligence, what we use now, this is what it is. So we feed it with some numbers. So here we're feeding it with x1, x2 coordinates. So it's basically coordinate on x-axis, on y-axis. And what this model will try to do, it will try to find a way, it's like classification task, to determine to which class each point belongs. I'll start it now, so it starts learning, and you see while it's learning, it's trying to draw the line that will separate these two classes, and it is also changing the weights of these lines. So basically, these things are neurons, and these lines is what neural network works. So basically what it is doing, it is going this way, it tries to draw the line, it measures the error, goes back, and adjusts the weights there. And this is basically how learning looks in the world of artificial intelligence. Only important thing is how many of these connections do we have? Because real neural networks, what we're using nowadays, they're quite deep and they're quite broad as well. And that's why here, for example, we have like 4 multiplied by 8, plus 8 by 8, plus 8 by 1. We have like 100-something connections here. In real world, like ChatGPT, for example, these models what we're using, they have hundreds of billions of parameters. So they're just huge. But this is the only difference. Other than this, they're like this. They're not like our brain. They're pure math underneath. And it's based on statistics, because when it is optimizing, it tries to do the best it can to minimize the error. So another thing what we learned in recent years, we learned to convert different data into numbers. Because remember, neural networks can work only with numbers, and we learned how to convert audio, images, video, text into numbers. We call them embeddings, and then these embeddings can go into our neural networks. That's basically it. Now, here are some examples what you can do with text nowadays. You can do, for example, information extraction. You give machine a text and say, where are some dates, organizations, or person names, and so on. This is called information extraction. You can do question answering. You ask a question, and machine somehow can extract the correct answer from the context. Or you can do sentiment analysis, where you say, there are phrases, some of them are positive, some are negative, some are neutral. And this is how you do this with machine learning, with neural networks already now. What happened then? At some point, we realized that we cannot get enough examples like this on which we can train these models. And we started thinking, okay, what are some clever ways how we could get more data without labeling it manually? And this is where someone had a bright idea of doing self-supervised learning. What it means, we take all the text we have, and in the internet we have a lot of text, and we start learning these machines, training these machines from the structure of this text. Basically, predict the next word in the sentence. Or we will mask one word and say, what word we have hidden? Tell us. And the same you can do with images. You take image, you compress it, and you say to machine, restore the original number of pixels there. Or you have image and the text describing it in the internet, and then you say, generate me text from image or image from text. And basically, this way, it's called self-supervised learning. You're not labeling it. And here you may say, okay, but how far can we get with this? In 2019, there was a model GPT-2, where basically what they've done, they've shown that by training this model to predict the next word, they were able to achieve this, where they were priming the model with a prompt, like in a shocking discovery, scientists had found some unicorn that was speaking English. And then the model can generate all this. So it's like a lot of text, and it is like meaningful text about that thing. And back then, there were a lot of discussions how safe is to release something like this to public, because it's dangerous. A lot of fake news will be generated, right? And in scientific community, there were a lot of discussions like, should we be open with our research, and how can we trust them if they do not publish it? And it was GPT-2. What happened after it? I think this was not massively released actually back then, but what happened after it? Using the same approach, we started training more and more models, and we started to drop more and more compute on it and make these models larger and larger. What happened here, you can see a lot of different models. Some of them are closed source, some of them are open source, so you can go, download, explore them. And how they've grown was this. The model that we have not released was this one, 1.5 billion parameters, so these connections in neural network. GPT 3.5, what you're using now, has roughly 100 times more parameters, so it's 175 billion parameters. And this one we just released without discussions. And you may say like, okay, but how can they generate the text if they can predict only one word? And this is how it works. So you have some text, you are feeding this text in, like one word at a time, and then you invoke the model predicts one word. Then you call the model with your original text plus this one word, and it predicts the next word, and the next word, and the next word, and this is how it can generate a text. And here some of you may say like, yeah, Anton, but you're not right, because they can generate different text for the same prompt, so they're thinking the same way as we do. And this is where statistics come into play, because when they were trained, they were predicting the next word, and basically they're saying, here are the words that can go next, and here is a probability of every word. And when you're working with this model, there is usually a parameter called temperature, where if you set it to 0, it will always take most probable words, but if you relax it, it will experiment with different stuff and will randomly return you different responses. And this is where, for the same prompt, it can talk about nice dogs, or nice women, or nice houses, so it's basically where this randomization comes into play. So what is the state now? We take these large corpuses of data, we pre-train models on them, we get to these foundation models, and then we start adapting them. So the process is called adaptation, where we still are using these labeled examples, but it turned out that we need less of them. So we need a few thousands of labeled examples, and we can implement the same question answering or sentiment analysis or information extraction I was showing you on previous slide. So this is the big difference. And what is important, that getting to this foundation model requires quite a lot of data and quite a lot of compute power. And now you can see that there are different services online, right? So there are like services that will write code instead of you, that will generate images instead of you, that will make your CV look nicer. And usually they were built this way, that they've taken some foundational model and just adapted it on the data what they have. So that's why you are seeing a lot of these different new services. So what are the main issues? I'll call you 5 plus 1, so 6, where the first one is not specific to this new generative AI world. It is specific to all deep learning. You saw we have these neural networks. These neural networks can become quite big. And then the question is, how do you explain what's happening inside? And these models nowadays, they're black boxes. And the problem with black boxes is that it can bite you at some way. Here is one example. During COVID times, there were different research teams who were predicting different parameters related to COVID based on RTG images, lung RTG images. And then there was this interesting study where they were analyzing how these predictions were made, and they came to conclusion that in most cases, this prediction was made based on confounding factors. What it means? One of my favorites is that the model was very precise. It was predicting how severe the COVID will be for specific patient. When they started analyzing it, it turned out that the model found a way how from the RTG image like this, it can determine the pose of the patient in which RTG was made. Basically, it was predicting if the patient was standing during RTG, COVID will be light. If the patient was sitting or lying on a bed, then COVID will be more severe, which is quite logical, right? But this is one of the examples of confounding factors. They found others, like text on the scan or shoulder position and so on and so on. Now, specifically for this new models generating text, the first thing, and I think you've heard about it because everyone's speaking about it, is hallucinations. Like the models can hallucinate, and here I think important thing is that usually people who are not so much into AI misinterpret what hallucination means. Because hallucination sounds like the model generates some nonsense, but this is not the case. Usually, here is an example. I was running it like pretty small model, relatively small, middle model, running just on my home lab machine. And I'm asking it, like, John just turned 15. It is allowed to drive a car when you are 18. How many more days John has to wait until he can drive a car? Provide rational before answering. And the model is answering. John has to wait for 18 minus 15 is 3 more years. So he has to wait for 3 multiplied by 365. And so far it was great, right? You're thinking like, oh, it understood what you want. And then it says that it will be 216 days. So the final answer is 216. And this is hallucination. So basically, like, reasoning is okay, but it doesn't know the math. And I'm trying to ask it the same thing, like 3 multiplied by 365 in different ways. I'm getting all the different answers. And now you know why. Because it is not counting. It is generating the next word. And you may say, Anton, this was a small model. In real world, this doesn't happen. Just take bigger model. Here's a real example with ChatGPT. One lawyer in US was using ChatGPT to generate his complaint for the court, for his client. And basically half of other cases he has referred to never existed. And he was saying like, yeah, I've used ChatGPT. I didn't know about hallucination. And then he's saying, I've asked ChatGPT if ChatGPT is confident that these other cases exist. And ChatGPT responded, yes. So it happens, right? Another example, here in different large models ask the same question, highlighted in green, like, in which city was San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo born? The only difference is before it, we put some piece of text where we're talking about Sunnyvale or Saratoga, like 2 different cities. And this affects how the model responds. So you're asking a city, in the context I saw some city, so it will be that city. And that's a good example of hallucination as well. So basically, quite often, we're giving responses to the model, and then we're thinking that the model was very smart. And you may say, like, okay, then what negative effects it may have? Scientifically proven that there is an effect called falling asleep at the wheel, how they've called it, where basically it was in, here is a link, there were like 2 separate studies where they observed it for HR and for business consultants, where basically if the model is returning good responses or sensible responses, people start missing the errors. And with this generative AI, this is specifically true, I believe, because they are responding not with 1 word as an answer, but they're generating a lot of text. And when you're reading through it, you can easily get impression that it all makes sense, and then you will miss the error. The second problem with these models, they heavily depend on content and on data on which they were trained. So the data that was fed in during training. Here is an interesting study where dietary specialists were asked about advices what ChatGPT gives to dietary-related questions. And they were saying that basically majority of advices what ChatGPT gives is related to European cuisine, just because this is what it saw more, like text in English. All BMI-related, body mass index-related stuff is European. So if you are from Asia, then different norms for BMI apply, and it doesn't know it so much. And it cannot distinguish between scientifically proven thing and scientifically unproven. So if it had seen that someone says eat only meat and someone else says do not eat meat, then it doesn't know which one is true because it just had seen it. And this is also a problem with it. And it leads to interesting biases in these models, which can be quite dangerous. Like Stanford University, they found Islamophobia it was in GPT-3, but you can test newer models, you will see it as well, just because of the content what we have in the internet. Where basically what they were doing, they were asking a model, please complete a text, which is 2 Muslims walked into a. And then what the model generated was walked into a synagogue with access and the bomb, or walked into a Texas cartoon contest and opened fire. And this is bad, right? So it learned it from the text what it had seen in the internet, but this is actually a good way to test the model what you plan to use for biases. Just ask it open questions like this, and you will see interesting biases what it might have. Number 3, legal issues. Perhaps you've seen these articles in the internet where writers are trying to sue Microsoft OpenAI for using their content, pirated content or cited content from the internet in training these large models. And then the real question is, who owns the copyright to the data generated by these models? And you may say it's their problem, why should we care? For us, as for company doing software development, it is a problem. Because, for example, there are tools like GitHub Copilot that are generating code. And there is a real example where GitHub Copilot had generated a code, it kind of generated it. But in reality, this code came from these guys, this gentleman's GitHub repository, and this AI tool had not included copyright. And if we would get this piece of code in our code base, we would be responsible legally, right? Because we cannot say like, oh, we don't know where this code came from, it's ChatGPT generated it for us or something. So it's a real problem. If you're using these models, think who owns the copyright on the content generated by them. And sometimes providers of these models are explicitly saying, like, we guarantee that there will be no copyright issues. Number 4. These models are just large, expensive, and they have large carbon footprint to train them. And this is why there are a lot of active studies how to train them in a more efficient way. But if you're not in this area, this maybe is not so interesting for you. But just to give you some idea of how much carbon footprint they generate and what is long. Here are 2 models. This first one is similar to GPT-3 in size, and they were training it for 3.5 months using 384 GPUs, graphical cards. So it's a lot of compute, 3.5 months. This model is 10 times smaller, and they've trained it for 24 days on 512 GPUs. So it's still a lot. And this is why we have this model where we first train foundational model and then try to adapt it, just because this first step takes a lot. What it means for you, majority of these models are hosted somewhere in the cloud, like Microsoft offers them to you, OpenAI offers them to you, so your data will go there. And then data privacy concerns are important. What data are you sending, how this data will be used by them, where they will be storing it, will they use it to improve their model, will they share this data with someone else? So it's important, just think about it. Another thing, what usually is brought up in scientific community, that larger model and more accurate model does not mean more business value, because sometimes they may get very expensive. And that's why there are interesting discussions about what is better, to pay, for example, OpenAI for some large model, or to take some smaller model, spend some amount of money on preparing your own data sets to fine-tune this model for your specific use case, and then use that model, because it may be cheaper. And finally, these models require quite a lot of compute to generate text, because remember, they were generating it like word by word, like predicting every next word. So to generate a text, a sentence of 100 words, you're invoking it 100 times. And there are studies like how quickly they can generate it, how much compute they need, and all that. And in general, it's like, you may think like 50 words per second, 100 words per second. And you may say like, okay, who cares? It's a lot. We're not reading that fast. But here is where it becomes a limiting factor. In recent studies, it was proven that basically, in order to fight these hallucinations and get better responses from this model, we need to switch to agent workflow approach, where, for example, you want machine learning model, the generative AI model, to write some code. And you are not just saying, write me the code for this, but you are saying you will be 2 agents. two models, or the same model, but just with different roles and different prompts. One will be generating text, and another will be validating this text and searching for some bugs there. And basically it works like this. You're asking a question, then these models communicate together for like 5 minutes, and then they come up with an answer. And for this number of words they generate per second is critical, because basically a lot of more communication happens between them, and this becomes a limiting factor. And there are also some designs where they're trying to mimic the entire, for example, team of experts. Like you will be developer, you will be tester, you'll be product owner, you'll do, and then all of them are communicating together. Okay, and final issue, that results are really hard to evaluate because they're generating text. And you may think like, okay, for example, they're generating a text like, we have a user review of some product like this, and then we're asking a question like what they wanted to say there. The model is generating one response and another response. How do you evaluate it? And it is hard because basically what human needs to do is you need to read through this, you need to think how you would answer it, you need to read through this and through this, think what model maybe had thought when it generated this, and then you can decide which one is better. So it's hard. And we are not the only ones who are struggling with this, like regular people. Scientists in Stanford are struggling with this as well. This is one interesting study where what they tried to do, they tried to take RTG, lung RTG like this, and they tried to make machine to generate a description of what it sees there, the same way as doctor would do. They did it for different models, and then how do they compare which model is better? They came up with a clever idea that they will be using GPT-4, like another model, as a judge. That this other model will say which other AI is good. And this is a bad approach by design, right? Because that other model had all these biases and everything. And then they said, okay, let's give it to humans. Fine, we will give it to humans and validate it with humans. But the problem is, like, what is a metric of how good specific answer is? How you measure it, how good it is? They decided to do it in the following way, where basically they take a block of text and they highlight everything what is correct in yellow and everything what is not correct in red. And you may look into this and it looks like everything is, sorry, not yellow, green, obviously. So everything here is green and only one part is red, and you may say, oh, then this model is good. But in reality, this part which is red says that there was some surgery and something was removed from that lung, but it was not removed. And then the question is how this model will be used. You generate it and give it to patient? Makes no sense. You generate it and give it to the doctor will read to this thing, to this red part, say this model is stupid and not read any further. So it's a challenge, it's a challenge. And one important thing for you to remember is when you're using these models and you're just playing with them, usually you don't have anything specific in mind. You just play with them. And when you don't have anything specific in mind, all responses will look good because you can think how good they are. Like here, I've generated, for example, Renaissance-style portrait of an astronaut in space, blah, 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 something. Beautiful gentlemen. We can put them into Rundale Palace on a wall, beautiful paintings, right? But then my wife is a dentist, and I said, let's do something more real, like, I don't know, visual for advertisement of the clinics where you work. And I don't remember exactly what we were asking, like smiling lady, something, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, I'm not an expert in prompting these models, but this was the result I got into like few prompts. And like, how do you use it? It's like you make all teeth in one smile and get the second smile free, or I mean, what it is. And this is an example. So when you're asked to validate this model, so to play with them, think about some real scenario. And a few closing slides. So with all this, how do you make AI real for you? The first thing, usually people are asking like, okay, is artificial intelligence already as smart as we are? Will it replace us? And there is a lot of buzz around it, right? In scientific community, recently we came up with the idea, so previously there was idea this artificial general intelligence, which means that machines are as smart as we are. And we came up with the idea of artificial capable intelligence, which basically means what these machines can do. The reason we did it was because historically we were here, artificial narrow intelligence. So we were able to train models that could distinguish cats from dogs if we give enough data, roughly, right? We were using them for real business scenarios, don't get me wrong, and they were really good, but they were for specific narrow scenarios. And then when models started generating all this text, suddenly we started thinking about this artificial general intelligence. So if they generate text similar to what we write, then they should be thinking in the same way we do. And here what scientists are saying is like stop. It doesn't matter what they tell. What matters is what they can do. And that's why we're talking about this basically capable intelligence, so what they can do. If you don't agree or someone is challenging you, here are more articles. You can read through it where scientists are saying like, most probably we will get machines that are as smart as cats and dogs first and only then as smart as we are. Machines are just tools, so treat them the same ways as any computer program, so artificial intelligence is just a computer program. And Bill Gates is saying that he does not expect that GPT-5 will be much better than GPT-4. So if you are thinking we will not be using AI now, we will wait because the next AI will be better, this will not happen, most probably. It will be slightly better. So key takeaways for you. First, beware of fake content. Fake content is everywhere just because it's very easy to generate. From my personal experience, if I'm getting scientific paper for review, I was reading through it. If previously I was biased towards like quality of English language, and if the language was not good, I was thinking like, okay, maybe it's not native language for the person, so I will be reading more carefully. Maybe I'm just not getting something. Now, if I see that something doesn't come together, my first idea is that it was just generated, because this is how AI hallucinates and so on. And sometimes you may get this wrong information, not because someone had bad intent, but just because the model hallucinated and the person didn't know about it, like that lawyer example. Second, use generative AI the right way. It is good for generating ideas, for generating drafts, but it is not good for getting factually correct answers, because you saw how it works. It doesn't work this way, just by design. The third thing is know your model. So just don't use it as a black box. Think on which data it was trained. From that, it will affect what biases it will have. It will affect what questions it understands better. And also quite often these models have this feature called in-context learning, where if you are asking it for something and giving examples in your prompt, it will respond better. Be skeptical. I've shown you some examples that AI is not the same as our intelligence, so it's different. It's optimization machine based on statistics. If it will see the way to find a shortcut, as with these COVID patients, to determine pose based on RTG, it will do it. And finally, when people are talking about dangers of AI, this is real. I'm not saying that AI is not dangerous, but just in a different way. So AI is a tool, is a computer program, and as any computer program, you can apply it for some bad things, to generate fake content or to do some attacks on people generating some queries and so on. With this, I want to say thank you very much. Here is a QR code again if you want to go through the slides on your own pace. And if you have some questions, I'll try to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton, very much. And moving on, Carlos Benavides from Universidad de Málaga will discuss circular economy and corporate reputation, evidence from the tourism sector. Carlos, you're welcome. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your assistance here. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Mironova for inviting me to be present today in this special session, in this session of this conference here in Riga. Well, I am a professor of applied economics and teaching at the Faculty of Tourism at the University of Malaga and doing research such as the one I am presenting now this afternoon. Well, my colleagues before have been dealing with topics related with digitalization, and now I will go to another topic, which is sustainability, which is, as you know, another big topic that is increasing the relevance during the last few years. And this so from the institutional point of view, if we think about the support of the European Union to both sustainability and the previous topics on digitalization. Well, this work I am presenting today is a working paper that deals on circular economy and corporate reputation in the tourism industry. And this was undertaken with two colleagues from the University of Malaga, my colleagues Macarena Marchante and Cristina Quintana, and Professor Diego Vázquez from the University of Portsmouth. First of all, I would like to explain how we came across this research idea. My colleagues from the University of Malaga and I are members of the Santander Center for Corporate Social Responsibility, and we have been working on topics such as the CSR in the tourism sector and corporate reputation, but from the manufacturing firm's point of view. And we have been also working on other topics related to, with sustainability, such as inclusive innovation or gender diversity in the industry. On the other side, colleague Diego Vázquez is an expert on circular economy and looking for a common topic to do research about. We came across this idea on connecting both things. So, talking about circular economy, you know that nowadays we are living a transition process from the linear economy to a circular economy. This is a paradigm shift because since the Industrial Revolution we have been living our daily lives are based on a linear economy model. And this is actually really unsustainable. So we are now looking for this paradigm shift, and we can consider, therefore, the impact of circular economy as this different model we are transitioning to from this linear and sustainable model, which is based basically on mass consumption and mass production, right? So, and differently from other sustainability models, circular economy is considered to be restorative. So it is not just something which is more efficient and that deals with, for example, savings of energy or recycling, but this model, as stated by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, is restorative and regenerative by design and aims to keep products, components and materials at the highest utility at all times. So this model stresses the importance of closing the loop rather than being just doing more with less resources. If we consider the sorry, it's not working anymore. Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, if we think about the tourism industry, we are all aware about the negative impacts that this industry generates, basically related to the high use of resources like water, energy, but also the production of water and solid waste. We also know how big it's the contribution to the carbon emissions and also other negative effects related, for example, with biodiversity and the impact on the historical heritage. So we believe that for the tourism industry, circular economy could be the most effective way to solve this contradiction between tourism development and environmental protection. And how can we do that? Well, in this table we can see a list of practices related to circular economy, dealing with different items and belonging to basic areas of concern, namely resources and waste. So, for instance, in the tourism industry, we find this initiative by the Rescue company. They have an application. They are operating in some neighbor countries as Finland or Estonia, for example, and they are using sharing economic platforms and donating surplus food to charities and food banks in order to deal with this surplus food. But we could also mention other initiatives taken in the tourism industry to reduce energy and waste, or recycle the water use, or also to recycle or reduce food and water waste in the industry, right? So, despite this potential role of the circular economy for the tourism industry, we can see that literature dealing with those topics is actually really scarce. We found limited research on all these topics, even though there is wider focus on environmental strategies, but they mainly follow a qualitative approach, and we can find some papers dealing with basically barriers and drivers, or good practices analyzing case studies, right? So research about the effects of of circular economy on corporate performance is really nascent. And in our work, we are focusing on the relationship between circular economy and corporate reputation. That's what we are analyzing, because it is a decisive resource to obtain and maintain competitive advantage due to its intangible nature. So, which are the aims of our paper? So, first of all, we would like to examine how circular economy practices impact corporate reputation. Secondly, we extend the sustainability report literature by analyzing the influence of CSR reporting or ESG communication on the relationship between circular economy and corporate reputation. And we do so by analyzing a panel of large companies for the tourism industry for the period 2007 and 2021. Now, after this introduction, we will move on to the research framework and hypothesis development. Basically, first, related to the first aim of the paper, there is literature dealing with the antecedents of corporate reputation, and we find some papers applied to different sectors and regions, but mainly the US companies. And in these papers, they identify a set of antecedents of corporate reputation, such as the ones you can see there, but also they analyze the influence of some moderators, such as the country of the study or the CSR reporting. So, if we look at the antecedents, we can see the three pillars of corporate social responsibility among them. Basically, corporate social, financial, and environmental performance. So what if we look at the literature about the tourism industry? Well, if we focus on corporate environmental performance, we see that this environmental performance has been widely analyzed, and there are a few studies, there are a lot of studies analyzing environmental performance and the firm performance themselves. So these strategies that could also be named environmental pro-environmental behavior, for example, or green practices, as you can find in the literature. This has been analyzed, and so they found the impact on some different items related to firm performance, but no moderators were analyzed for the tourism industry, and also no circular economy as a whole were analyzed in the tourism industry. If we look more precisely on the relationship between environmental performance and corporate reputation, we find that those studies analyzing this relationship focus rather on environmental reputation, or look at reputation from the perspective of just a specific stakeholder, so managers or consumers. So in this point, our contribution is that we are taking a multi-stakeholder approach of global corporate reputation, and we are doing so by analyzing, by doing a longitudinal empirical study, considering also moderating effects. So after this part of the theoretical framework, we can formulate our first hypothesis, and we do so by drawing from the signaling theory, believing that when companies report about circular economy, their engagement with this environmental pro-environmental behavior becomes more visible to stakeholders. So we believe that the adoption of circular economy strategies improve a firm's reputation. Dealing with the second aim of this paper, if we look at the literature on reporting as a booster of reputation, we can see that two dimensions of communication, of ESG communication on reporting have been analyzed, basically quantity and quality of information. There are fewer empirical studies about the quality of information, but we can find more studies about the quantity of information. In some papers, we can also find a call to analyze if the disaggregated moderation effect has different impact on different industries. And if we focus on the tourism industry, ESG communication is a topic which has been scarcely analyzed in the literature. So regarding the second aim of this research, we fill the gap by evaluating the difference between the effects of quantity and quality of the ESG communication on corporate reputation using a disaggregated measure for the tourism industry. And this is when we formulate the hypothesis related to CSR reporting. And we do so by drawing on legitimacy theory. We can consider that transparent ESG communication or CSR reporting helps to legitimize corporate behavior, and thus this is valued by the stakeholders of the firm, and hence contributes to a positive corporate reputation. So we pose that CSR reporting quantity and quality strengthens the relationship between circular economy and corporate reputation. So moving on to the methodology, we use a database from the Environmental Social Governance by Refinitiv Icon data platform, and we analyzed a worldwide panel dataset of 184 tourism firms. with 996 observations for the period 2007 and 2021. And they belong to 38 different countries. Here you can see in this table the variables we are using. First of all, our dependent variable is corporate reputation, that is measured using the social pillar score. Then our independent variable is circular economy strategies, measured with the environmental pillar, including 21 items about emissions, resource use, and innovation. And our moderators are CSR reporting quantity and quality, measured by the CSR strategy score, as you can see here in this table. And finally, we included some control variables, such as the firm size or the ESG combined score. So this is our proposed model with the hypothesis I was explaining before. And now we will go on to the results. So if we look at the descriptive statistics, we can see that we are analyzing mainly large firms, and we can also see that there has been an improvement on the commitment of firms with circular economy practices or strategies. So if we compare the first year of the sample, 2007, with the last year available, we can see how the relevance of those strategies have been improving. So here in this table, you can see the results of the fixed effects regression model. We included a first model with direct effects and the second model with the interaction effects. And in the next table, we also included a model with both direct effects and interaction effects. But I'm not going to extend much more on that, and I will just explain about the coefficients. So if you look at the circular economy coefficient, we can see that this effect is significant and positive. So is the interaction effect of the CSR reporting quality in this model, and on the other hand, we didn't find any positive effect or any relevant effect, significant effect on the CSR reporting quantity. So this means that hypothesis 1 and 2b were confirmed, but we cannot accept hypothesis 2a. So to sum up, we could say that the adoption of circular economy strategies leads to superior corporate reputation. Regarding to the second aim of the paper, the CSR reporting quality that is more related with an external auditor or international standards, it strengthens the relationship between circular economy strategies and corporate reputation. But the moderating effect of CSR reporting quantity was not significant, and there weren't found either direct impacts on corporate reputation. Those results were confirmed in our robustness analysis checks, and this leads us to a couple of implications from the theoretical and managerial point of view. First of all, from the theoretical point of view, we extended the sustainability report literature, analyzing this disaggregated effect of impact of CSR information quantity and quality for the tourism industry, as I was saying before, on the relationship between circular economy and corporate reputation. And regarding the managerial implications, we believe that our study could contribute to ESG practitioners because it could provide them with useful information to assist them in the design of CSR communication strategies. Well, as to finish, we could think about some future research avenues, and so we could, in this case, analyze which particular feature of CSR communication quality has more impact on the the effectiveness of circular economy to corporate reputation. We would like also to use primary data in order to know what's going on in the different firms about the impact of circular and environmental strategies. And finally, it could be also interesting to analyze this kind of relationship to other sectors, or more precisely to the different branches of the tourism sector, which, as you know, are or might be quite heterogeneous between them. So that was all. Thank you very much for your attention, and I am open for questions now or afterwards when we are discussing all the topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carlos. I definitely am willing to discuss your research. So, thank you. Certificate. And our next speaker is Natalia Alandarenko, founder of the ANG School Language Center, with presentation about language immersion as a supporter for tourism. Natalia?
All right. Hello, everyone. And first of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me here. Happy anniversary to XXIII University. And thanks a lot for the previous speakers as well. Lots of interesting information, lots of food for thought. And today, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about language immersion as a supporter for tourism. A few facts about me. I'm an ANG school founder and the owner. We teach languages starting 2011, sorry. And so, can you hear me well? Yeah? Okay. I'm so EF, Education First, exclusive representative in Latvia. This is the biggest world company in educational tourism. We've got 50 schools in 50 different destinations all around the world. And we send, personally, we send students to study languages all around the world from Latvia. So, today we're gonna speak about the immersion. What is a language immersion? About educational tourism, few facts, cultural experience, and communication and interaction. My first question, maybe you can think, seconds, what is a language immersion? What is a language immersion? All right. Language immersion is a method of teaching and learning, according to Ramirez, teaching and learning a new language in which people learn in the language, not just about the language. So basically, if we talk about our classrooms here in Latvia, English classrooms, is it total immersion or partial immersion? If the teacher speaks English only, that's what every parent wants here, most probably, that's a total. Well, is it? when the students in a monolingual classroom, they can't follow the teaching in English only, especially younger generation. They still use their mother tongue. So in this case, we speak about partial immersion. What we do with education first, we trying to provide the environment when the student is completely, fully immersed. So when they arrive to another country, they live with a local family. Then, when they leave and go to school, in the street, they speak again the language of the country. At school, they study with 14 different nationalities, and again, they have no other choice, but they will speak the language of the country. So this is what we call a complete, total immersion. Basically, in simpler words, language immersion means surrounding yourself using and hearing a language as much as possible. Okay, so language immersion can be an incredible supporter of tourism in numerous ways. How can a language immersion support the tourism? I'm gonna present the first factor. This is educational tourism. Language programs, what we provide is a part of an educational tourism. We do it starting from 1965 for 60 years, and the sector of educational tourism become more and more popular. Let's have a look at some facts. So, first of all, this is a growing trend for everybody. You're all here today. Why? Because you want to develop yourself. You want to discover something new. And this is what people in the world do. They want to discover, they want to self-improve themselves, and they also want to discover the world. According to statistics, market exhibited a year-on-year growth of 16%. And over 6 million educational tourists traveled in 2022, despite all the restrictions after pandemic. So look at the age group. The main age group, 73%, are students from 90 to 25. And estimated market value in 2031 is going to be around $2 billion. So it's a huge niche to develop. The second factor, which helps tourism through language immersion, is economic impact. Well, there is, I guess it's obvious that when a tourist comes to the country, the tourist spends some money there and the economy. Let's have a look at some data about the UK. UK is the leading English language destination at the moment and the most popular destination of ours as well. So as you can see, every year, UK welcomes more than 500,000 of international students. About 1.4 billion added to the UK economy every year. And what is also an interesting fact, that every student 3 times longer than the average visitor. Also, it creates around 36,000 jobs annually. Okay, so what is another factor which helps us to develop the tourism? This is, of course, cultural experience. Cultural experience, when the person speaks the language of the country, the person understands the jokes, the humor, the nuances of the country which the tourist visits. And if we have a look at other three things, all things related to this area, they are respect and integration. Imagine a foreigner is coming to Latvia and asking you for help. And then at the end of the conversation, the foreigner says, "Paldies." What is your reaction? Of course, you all smile now. And that's what causes respect and integration. When a tourist speaks the language of the country he visits. Of course, there is an exploration of all of the beaten path places. Let's say when you go to Italy, a typical tourist would probably go to Venice or Rome, and very, very few would go to little places where the real culture can be felt. Cultural exchange and understanding is also a very important factor. And when different nationalities come even to Latvia, we have our own stereotypes about what is this nationality about, right? Everybody has it. So this kind of language immersion helps us to go through these stereotypes, to break them down. Okay, some interesting facts about Malta. And ELT sector, in English as a foreign language sector, is an important niche for tourism industry in Malta. Why? First of all, because it brings more diverse profile. Students from Brazil, students from Colombia, Japan and Turkey choose Malta over the countries which are closer to them. Around 90,000 students visit Malta as tourists, as educational tourists every year. And average length of stay is 17.3 days. Okay, and the last factor which influences the language diversity is an effective communication. Of course, when we speak the language of the country we visit, it's always easier for us to find common things, interests, to make friends, and this is definitely a very emotional moment here. We are more likely to have friends and good connections, business partners in different countries. And then we, as a tourist, we would love to return to this country. Or we are coming back home and we recommend it. So increased interaction or language communication is very important here. So overall, I would like to say and remind you one more time that language immersion is a very good supporter of tourism. It enriches the travel experience for tourists, but also benefits the local community and economy, creating a more sustainable and authentic form of tourism. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll be happy to answer all the questions.
Thank you very much, Natalia. And Raiti Shevelis is closing our plenary session, who is the head of product in IndyStack. And the topic today is bridging the gap between academics and business by contributing to open source. Raiti, you're welcome.
Hey, I'm all armed and ready to go. So, hello everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm very honored to share the stage with awesome speakers. And my name is Raitis Ševelis. I'm a lecturer at ISMA for digital marketing and e-commerce, and also head of product for IndieStack, which is managed WordPress hosting on Google Cloud. And my topic for today is bridging the gap between academics and business fields. And as in the opening remarks, Olga Verdenhofer said that there are plenty of challenges in higher education. The education is changing, the business environment is changing, and we need to look for ways how to change as well. And contributing to open source could be one of the solutions. We can all agree that the goal of higher education, one of the goals of higher education, is make sure that we prepare professional students ready for their further career, accepting challenges, and basically completing their daily routine and moving on with their career. And according to Eurostat data, 82% of recent graduates are actually employed. And the number is pretty significant, pretty good. Still, there is place for improvement. The good thing that this number is growing. For example, in 2014, it was 7% lower, and we did had COVID, which of course also impacts the results, but still it's a growing trend. At the same time, if we are looking from the perspective of business, according to SHRM report, companies on average spend around $4,700 for hiring and onboarding new employees. And of course, that varies between different industries, between different sectors. If we talk about engineers, that number is higher. If we talk about executives, that number can go up to 28, 46, and so on. And to actually onboard a new employee, companies are spending 62 to 72 hours per a new employee. And of course, a part of that effort goes to ensuring that those people are ready to work in a team in terms of having the soft skills in place, and also from the technical side, understanding the working processes, procedures, methodologies, and so on. But if we look on higher education, then there are two articles by Todd and Jonathan that suggest that higher education is not doing enough in terms of teamwork. There are not enough practices being in place, and necessary skills are not often being developed. And that's also something that has been discussed also with other colleagues from different universities. And if we look on the most popular problems, so from the academic side, that's that teamwork skills are not usually part of the study curriculum. I mean, we do have different subjects like agile methodologies, but sometimes they are a bit separated, and you don't really apply that knowledge within different courses. It is also for academics a lot harder to evaluate individuals when it comes to group work. So you can evaluate group, but you are not present all the time, so you don't really know the contribution of an individual member within a group. Talking about students, there are different issues: lack of motivation. There are also what is called free riders. These are people that are joining the group but don't want to commit. They hope that other team members will basically contribute to the group results, and they will just get the evaluation and move on. On the other side, there are what is called bulldozers that are pushing their own ideas. They are often disregarding other peers, not taking into account their opinion, and basically acting as leaders that were sometimes not really promoted. Lack of recognition, again, another problem. If you are contributing a lot to the group and as we discussed previously, there are difficulties of evaluation. Maybe you don't receive the recognition that you really would like to receive based on your effort. And the lack of communication between peers. So there are two problems in one. The first one is that sometimes those groups are really forced, and you as an individual maybe wouldn't work with those people if you would have a different goal or a different environment. And for a successful group to form, you actually need processes in place, methodologies, and a time basically to form that group, to be efficient and to be focused on reaching those goals. So the problem is how to overcome those difficulties from the academic side, from the student side, how to lower resistance among students. And the proposed solution is to actually get students, get academics more involved into contribution to open source software projects. Since most of the open source, most popular open source software projects actually have processes, methodologies, communities established. So these are really well-working groups where active contribution is happening. And we often talk about open source software when we think about using it, studying, modifying, maybe getting that into your business processes. But a huge part of open source is, of course, contribution. This is how the most popular open source projects are surviving and succeeding. And this individual contribution from the students put them in the environment where there is already well-established processes in place with core contributors and voluntary contributors. And in such way, students are able to contribute on their, to some extent, individual terms. And why is it interesting for business? So on the business side, 78%, more than 78% are using open source software to some extent. So on a smaller or larger scale. And talking about engineers, more than 70% of developers, engineers admit that contributing to open source actually help them to acquire new skills or get better at what they are doing. Actually, 21%, that's only, but it's actually 21% of contributors are getting paid by their full-time jobs for contributing. And that's an initiative that comes usually from the business side. As an example, we can mention one of the most popular open source projects, WordPress content management system. There is an initiative which is called 5 for the Future, where 5% of your daily work is to contribute to this open source project. And that's supported by companies that join that initiative. At IndieStack, we are part of that initiative, and we see good improvements in moral and satisfaction from the engineers. And actually 61% of businesses contribute back to the open source project. So they are actively involved in developing open source software. So another thing to mention, we're talking about engineers, we're talking about open source software development, and it may sound that this only applies to IT sector, when this is not true, because open source projects goes beyond coding. So there are possibilities of contribution for other study departments rather than IT. So documentation, user interfaces, marketing, community management, onboarding, and so on. So these are fields that where students can contribute, and they may not be necessarily with IT background. And with that all in mind, how do we really benefit? And let's start that there are three groups: students, academic institutions, and of course business. and what are the benefits for those individual groups. So for students, first of all, that's developing of the skills, how to work in groups. And here I would like to highlight the significance of soft skills, which is often neglected by engineers and higher education institutions in general, while, for example, businesses and experts often suggest that that's really important and necessary skill set to have to be successful at your daily job. The next one is learning and applying teamwork methodologies and tools. So as mentioned before, open source communities already have processes in place and tools in place. So you actually learn how to work in a group. Is it like Agile, Scrum, or Kanban methodologies? And for the tools, repositories, branching, GitHub, GitLab, other tools for testing and code styling. The next one is, of course, receiving this individual recognition. And here we go beyond academic recognition, where you only get evaluated to pass the course and move on with your studies. Within the community, for successful contribution, you actually receive a recognition among the community members, and that allows you to develop your personal brand, to increase your network, and basically become more competitive when it comes to finding career opportunities. And last but not least is, of course, remove that forced group forming, since you are a part of the community and you are working on those partially individual terms, while at the same time contributing to the common goal. On the academic institution side, first of all, that's brand improvement, brand recognition, since as a higher education institution, you are pushing or advocating for contributing to open source. It allows you to collaborate with businesses that are also actively involved in the process of development, to form new partnerships, new opportunities. It also, of course, improves competitiveness of the students, since they acquire those additional skills working in groups and be ready to proceed with their careers. And academics can contribute to the open source software or products that's being in use. For example, in ISMA, we use Moodle system, and that's an open source software product, which if we ask university lecturers and other people involved around, there's definitely place for improvement. So that could be the way how to actually push those improvements forward, by contributing actively on the academic and student side. And on the business side, first of all, since businesses are involved in the open software communities, it allows them to easily discover new talents, those new students that are also contributing to the open source software. And another thing is that since many companies that use open source software are also adapting practices and tools that are part of the community, part of the working processes, they will need to spend less time on onboarding processes, since potential hires from the communities will actually understand how things are happening within specific organizations. So with that in mind, some further research that could happen is, of course, maybe running A/B experiments on the course level, adapting courses, creating surveys or expert groups to discuss those things. And of course, I will be happy to discuss it with anyone who is interested or want to move things forward. Thank you for your attention.
So, Dear friends, dear colleagues, dear honored guests, with speech of our colleague XXIII, we close our today plenary session, and I would like to invite you for a photo, group photo right here, and see you tomorrow.